Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
We start off this hour with Western adventure as we head to San Francisco, California, and an episode of Have Gun Will Travel starring John Dehner as Paladin. This episode broadcast January 31st, 1960, and it seems like abuse seems to be the head of this hour as we hear from the boss.
I've met a lot of rash, bold men in my travels who paid a high price for their notorious reputations. But I've never met a man who has paid as much as you have. Was it worth it?
Have Gun Will Travel. Starring Mr. John Dehner as Paladin. San Francisco, 1875. The Carlton Hotel, headquarters of the man called Paladin.
It just isn't possible. It's ridiculous. Hey, yes, come in. Let me see you try into the dresser
Mr.
again.
Paladin! Hey, Mr. Paladin, what's the matter you crawl around on the floor like that?
Hey, boy, it just isn't possible. It's vanished, completely vanished.
Oh, my.
It slipped out of my hand. I was standing right there. But where is it? Where did the confounded thing go?
Oh, I help you look. Let's see now. Mr. Paladin, what we look for?
My collar button.
Oh, let's see now. Oh, no.
It just isn't possible. And I'm due for my appointment with the Countess in 15 minutes.
Countess?
And the Right Honorable Countess of Dunkley Tatsboro. She sent me a note.
Oh, yes, she guests in hotel. She very nice lady.
Yeah. Come in.
Oh, Mr. Paladin, I clean the room now.
Maybe it's over.
What's the matter, you two? Crawl around on the floor like that?
Missy Wong, maybe you come back later. We're very busy.
Oh, but Missy Wong...
Hey, boy, it's quite right, Miss Wong. You've come at a rather bad time. Come back later, please.
Oh, all right. I go. Come back later. Oh, Mr. Paladin, you dropped the collar button on the floor. I put him here on table. You'll be looking for that someday, maybe. Well, I come back when you're not so busy.
Thanks to Miss Wong, I arrived for my appointment promptly at 10. Lady May, the Right Honorable Countess of Dunkley Tatsboro, waited for me in her sitting room, stiffly erect in an enormous high-backed chair. She was every inch a noblewoman, a delicate, bird-like, lovely old lady with snow-white hair and alert blue eyes.
Well, sit down, Mr. Paladin.
Thank you.
You are the gentleman with the gun who travels?
Yes.
Rather an odd calling, but then I suppose it's only temporary.
Well, sometimes a business like mine can be very temporary.
Really? Oh, yes, of course. Well, Mr. Paladin, I am here in San Francisco for only one reason, to avail myself of your unusual services.
I'm flattered, Lady May.
My husband, the Earl of Dunkley Tatsboro, died 3 years ago. The title and estate, primogeniture, you know, passed to my eldest son, Gerald. Dear boy, Gerald, very much like his father. Stuffy and a bore, but a dear nevertheless. 6 months ago, Gerald met with an unfortunate shooting accident. Partridge.
Partridge?
On the moors in the mist. Who can see anything? Besides, Pamela's such a beastly, sharp, detestable girl. I never did like her.
Pamela?
Gerald's wife. She shot him.
Oh, Oh, that was indeed most unfortunate. Yeah.
So now the title and estate passed to my son Bertrand. That's where you come in. I want you to find him.
He's lost?
Oh, dear, no, he's somewhere in this splendid country of yours.
Well, it's quite a large country, you know.
Oh, my, yes, indeed.
Well, where would I start looking for him? That is, if I started out to find him.
Well, the last post I had from the dear boy was from a place called Stinking Springs. Odd, isn't it?
Well, it narrows it down. That's in the Gila River section.
But that was over a year ago.
Lady May, was Bertrand what we call a remittance man, banished from home, living on an allowance?
Banished is rather a harsh word, Mr. Paladin. And as for an allowance, Bertie's quite wealthy in his own right, from his godmother, the dear Duchess. When he came to this country, he had a deposit of £50,000 to his credit in the Chase National Bank of New York.
About $250,000. It's quite a sum.
I must confess, Mr. Paladin, I was always inclined to favor Bertrand. He was a delicate child, mild-mannered, gentle. He grew to be a fine man. But there was always conflict with his father, who felt he was a weakling, namby-pamby, soppy. It seemed the wise thing that Bertie should leave England.
Do you think he'll want to go back?
He must. He's now the Earl of Dunkley-Tatsborough. He must take his rightful place. Yeah. This ring. Take it, Mr. Paladin, when you find him. And I know you shall. Show it to him. It bears the family crest. And if he should hesitate at all, say this. Say, Mums needs her Twinkie boy.
Mums needs her Twinkie boy.
Yes, he will understand. Oh, here is his picture. It was taken 4 years ago, just before he left England.
Oh, good. Let's see. I mean, this is the Right Honorable Bertrand, Earl of Dunkley-Tatsborough?
Yes, poor dear. I brood so about it. His going so far away, feeling he was unwanted.
Well, Lady May, he doesn't have to feel unwanted anymore. He's wanted by the territories of Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas.
Dear boy, whatever do you mean?
Well, I hate to say this, but there's no mistake. This picture, this is Bad Bert.
Oh, my, no, that's Lord Bertrand, taken 4 years ago.
Oh, that is Bad Bert. He's known as a tough, dangerous road agent.
No.
I'm sorry, Lady May.
Tough.
Yes.
Dangerous.
Yes.
Well, I wish his father could hear that. Bully for Bertie.
Oh boy, January 31st, 1960, Have Gun Will Travel on Classic Radio Theater. Classic Radio Theater family, you know our friend Mike Lindell has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep of your life. He didn't stop by just creating the best pillow. He created the best bed sheets ever. They look and feel great, which means an even better night's sleep for me, because, you know, I'm working like 67 hours a day. Now, Mike's offering the best deal on his Giza Dreams bed sheets ever. You can get a set of Giza sheets for as low as $29.98. You'll never want to sleep on anything else once you slept on a set of Giza Dream sheets. A special offer for you right now. You can get a set of Giza sheets for as low as $29.98. Call 1-800-928-4715. Use the promo code Wyatt. Or go to mypillow.com, use the promo code Wyatt. It's good on anything on the website. That number again, 1-800-928-4715. Use my promo code Wyatt. Thanks for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now the conclusion of Have Gun Will Travel, starring John Dehner as Paladin, from January 31st, 1960, The Boss.
I couldn't see much chance for success in locating the Earl of Dunkley-Tatsborough, alias Bad Bert. since obviously the combined law enforcement officers of all the Southwest had failed in this endeavor. But Lady May had offered a handsome fee, twinkled her eyes at me, and besides, I was curious. I wondered why anyone with 50,000 good, substantial English pounds to draw on would bother to hold up a stage. It was a search without much plan or direction, but I started by looking in on my friend Truman Billings, the sheriff of Navajo County. The walls of his office were plastered with wanted posters, and among them I found Bad Bert.
Well, to tell you the truth, Paladin, we don't know an awful lot about that fella. He's a real baffling cuss.
Well, have you made any real effort to track him down?
Oh, look at that wall, Paladin. Look at the wanteds we got. We have to do our work where we get the most pressure.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
Well, take these stagecoach robberies. Now, the insured shipments that get held up, payroll, stuff like that, these we get pressure on. Those insurance companies are on our tail every minute. There's Bert here. He's lifted a lot of gold, but they was all private shipments, none of it insured. Just happened to work out that way.
It always worked out that way?
Yeah, same report from every place he's operated.
But what about these private parties who lost gold to Bert, the people for whom the shipments were intended? Didn't any of them ever apply any pressure?
No, not that I recall. I figure they must have been folks passing through. Took it as something you got to expect in this part of the country.
All the talk I've heard about Bert makes him out to be a pretty tough character. Was anyone ever killed or injured in any of these holdups?
No, but don't kid yourself, he ain't tough. He's got himself a gang of the worst outlaws in the country. What's your interest in him, Paladin?
I have a message for him.
Yeah, well, you watch yourself. If you ever run into him, he's a bad one. I don't suppose you could tell me what the message is?
I could. But you wouldn't believe it. Lady May had given me a list of the postmarks on all the letters Lord Bertrand had written home to England in the past 4 years, and I checked each town. Everyone seemed to know, fear, and respect Bad Bert, the road agent. I discovered that he had become a sort of legendary character, and the tales about him had grown with the telling. The road from Sulphur Flats to Gila Bend was a desolate one. I was the only passenger in the coach, but a heavy chest was riding in the boot.
This here's a hold-up, mister. Come on, now, get out. Get.
Feels good to stretch my legs.
Just drop your gun, mister. Now drop it.
Sure.
And watch yourself and you won't get hurt. It's in the boot, boys. Come on, hurry it up. Now, mister, this here coach being robbed by Bad Bert, leader of the toughest gang in the West.
That's very interesting. Why do you tell me that?
Boss's orders.
Oh? Where's the boss?
He's up there.
Way up there on the hill?
Yeah, that's the boss. He got a spyglass.
Then he doesn't actually take part in these robberies.
Oh, he figures him, mister. And so far, he done real good. Aren't you got it, boys? Well, then let's move.
Wait a minute. I've got something here I want you to take to your boss.
Well, get your hand out of that pocket. Get him up now.
Well, you get it then. It's in my vest pocket here, the ring for your boss.
Well, what's the idea? He don't want no ring.
I think he'll want this one. I'll take it to him. It's in this pocket. Here.
Well. Uh-oh.
What's that?
The boss. He see me through that spyglass. See me reach in your pocket. We ain't supposed to take nothing but the gold, see? He got some funny ideas.
Yeah. Well, you show him that ring. He'll understand. And my name is Paladin. I'm going to be at the King Hotel in Gila Bend. Don't forget that.
All right, and don't you forget this here coach robbed by Bad Bert. Come on, boss, come on.
When the stagecoach reached Gila Bend, I went immediately to the freight office. I was anxious to learn if the party who lost their shipment of gold to Bad Bert would be as disinterested as the others. The gold had been addressed to Hobbs L. Puffer, Esquire. The clerk had never heard of the gentleman. But then I remembered that Hobbs L. Puffer was the name of a Cambridge cricket champion who had died 3 years ago. That's when I worded a telegram to the Chase National Bank of New York, requesting an immediate reply. I checked into the King Hotel, had a drink, dinner, and started back to the telegraph office. I was just rounding the corner when I felt the gun at my back.
Paladin,
Ooh.
You and me's gonna take a little trip. Boss wants to see you.
All right. But first I'm going to step into the telegraph office.
You heard me.
You heard me.
Yes, sir. What can I do for you?
My name is Paladin. Did you get an answer to my wire?
Sure did. Here it is, all read out.
Thank you. Hey, come on. Get up. Come on. We can't keep the boss waiting. As we followed a trail that led over a mountain, I had a lot of time to think about the message I'd received from the bank. And it confirmed what I guess I'd already known. Lord Bertrand had been stealing from himself, ordering the shipments of gold from his account to be delivered in a fictitious name, then setting up the holdup and splitting with his men. It was almost daylight when we reached Bad Bert's headquarters. It's quite a place you have here.
Yeah, some hideout, huh?
Indeed it is.
Now, this here door, this leads to the drawing room.
Drawing room?
Well, that's what the boss calls it. I can't figure why. Now, everybody's waiting for you. Get on in. Well, here he is, boss.
Oh, yes. Come in, Mr. Paladin.
Bert, it's a nice place you have here.
Thank you. We like it.
More like a fancy hunting lodge than a hideout for thieves.
What?
No, don't bother with introductions. I recognize these boys from their pictures. Your group certainly adds up to a tidy little sum in reward money.
Now, he's getting awful smart, boss.
Mr. Paladin, we can do nicely without your drolleries. I brought you here simply to ask, where did you get this ring?
It was given to me, along with a message for you.
A message?
Mm-hmm.
Well, come then. What is the message? Let's have it.
I think you'd better send your men out.
No, not at all. My companions remain with me. Now, please. Message?
All right, Bert. You asked for it. Mums needs her Twinkie boy.
Now, what's that supposed to mean? Why you don't
No, Mr. Calico.
Well, you can't stand still for that kind of insulting talk, boss. No.
Gentlemen, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the drawing room after all. This is a matter I feel that I must settle myself.
Atta boy, boss, because he's too darn smart. Come on, fellas.
Well, Mr. Paladin, from your message it appears that my tenure here is over.
Oh, you couldn't have held out much longer anyway. Even 50,000 pounds doesn't last forever when you're cutting in practically every outlaw on the frontier.
Oh, but it was money well spent, Mr. Paladin. You can't possibly imagine.
I think I can, Lord Bertrand. Or should I say, Bad Bert.
Oh, yes. Bad Bert. Boss. Wanted. Well, if Mums needs her Twinkie boy...
Yeah, I finished with this, Miss Wong. You can take the tray downstairs.
Oh, yes, sir. Mr. Paladin, I keep thinking all the time of this Bad Bert you tell me about. He really robbed his own money, then divide up with bad men?
Well, you understand, of course, Miss Wong, the men didn't know it was his money. They just figured he was a pretty clever boss, planning all those successful hold-ups. And naturally, in the custom among thieves, there had to be a division of the spoils.
Yes, but seems very funny, rob his own money.
Well, Miss Wong, Bert was a meek little man, painfully aware of his insignificance. He desperately needed to feel important, feared, a big man, even if it cost him his inheritance.
Oh, cost him plenty money to have bad reputation.
Ah, but Bert had his day of glory. Now Lord Bertrand, the Earl of Dunkley-Tatsborough, is back in England attending to his estate, where he'll live out his days and be forgotten. But mark you my words, the stories about Bad Bert will grow and be told and retold until nobody will know where the truth leaves off and the tall tales begin. But he'll be remembered.
Oh, Isa.
Gun Will Travel. Created by Herb Meadow and Sam Rolfe, is produced and directed in Hollywood by Frank Paris and stars John Dehner as Paladin, with Ben Wright as Hey Boy and Virginia Gregg as Miss Wong. Tonight's story was specially written for Have Gun Will Travel by Ann Dowd. Featured in the cast were Lawrence Dobkin, Bartlett Robinson, James Nusser, and Peggy Weber. This is Hugh Douglas, inviting you to join us again next week when CBS Radio presents Have Gun Will Travel.
The only radio show of the classic age of radio that moved from television to radio. Have Gun Will Travel, and I still think John Dehner did a better job as Paladin as Richard Boone did. January 31st, 1960. Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox here on your favorite station. Yeah, my favorite Margie was on radio and TV at the same time, and yes, it started shortly before it ran on radio on television, but that's beside the point. Anyway, an episode of radio's outstanding theater of thrills Suspense straight ahead from that same date, January 31st, 1960, The End of the Road. But first, these important messages from your favorite radio station. Thanks for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, and that happens to be me. Now an episode of Suspense, going back to January 31st, 1960. This episode entitled End of the Road.
And now, another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense. In a moment, End of the Road. Written for radio by Alan Sloan, from a story by Eliezer Lipsky.
Hello.
Mary Gardner, please.
This is her husband. Who is calling?
This is the agency, Mr. Gardner.
Well, just a minute. It's for you. Sounds like a job.
Thanks, Willie. Hello?
At 2 p.m., high fashion.
What's the matter?
They will
My name ain't good enough for a cover girl,
huh?
huh?
Shoulders. But would
What's
you
the
bring
matter?
a
Ashamed of
gown?
me?
Preferably dark.
God,
and a short
Mary
top
God.
necklace. Preferably
You
not
mean
red.
Mary Luciano?
With a
I'm coming along this job here. I am
All right?
2 p.m. Elite.
Hey,
Dinner dress.
you hear me? You...
And as long as I have you, Miss Gardner.
Just a moment, please. Willie, please.
I said I am going with you.
Willie, can you wait till I finish this call?
Go ahead. I got all the time in the world, but I am going with you. You hear?
Miss Gardner?
Yes. Yes, was there something else?
Yes. We just got a mother and daughter call for tomorrow. That'd be 11 o'clock in the park. Could you make that with Elsie?
What, 11 o'clock? Oh, dear, no, Elsie's in school then.
It'd be double rate for the girl, Miss Gardner, and it might make a cover. It's mother and daughter outfits. Hannah Troy.
I'm sorry. I don't want to take Elsie out of school. Thank you.
Now, are we going to get this straightened out once and for all?
Willie, please. I've told you so many times I'm not ashamed of your name. I wouldn't have married you if I were.
Then why don't you keep the kid registered Elsie Luciano instead of Elsie Gardner?
Because we worked together as models as Gardner before you and I were married. Please, Willie, I get so bored going over this again and again and again.
And quit, then quit.
If I did, you'd have to go to work.
Are you going to throw that in my face again? Did I try for a job? Did I?
Yes.
All right. Don't give me no buts. I do all right, don't I? I bring the dough home, don't I?
But where does it come from, Willie?
I bring it in, don't I? What do you care where?
Oh, Willie, can't we just drop the whole thing? Where's my bag? I've got a 2 p.m.
I did it 2 p.m. Now, listen. You mean we got a 2 p.m. I'm coming with you.
Not in a high-fashion job.
A low-fashion job. I could come along, huh? And watch them photographers pour you around. Give it a little pat here, a little pat there.
Willie, I'm warning you.
You're warning me? You're warning me? Now, look, cover girl, I got a message for you.
Willie, go. You'll bruise my arm.
I get a kick out of you. Not that you're hurting me, but you'll bruise my arm. That's all you care about, ain't it? Your looks. Okay. Okay, if I don't go, you don't go.
Willie, let go.
Sure, I'll let go. With one right in the eye, I'll let go. Let's see him focus on that, huh? Cover girl with a shiner.
Oh, Willie, you beat.
Sure. You said that's what got you about me when I met you. Remember, you said I was an animal. A magnificent animal. How's that, Mrs. Luciano? How's that?
In just a moment, we will return for the second act of Suspense.
January 31st, 1960. Suspense on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Spousal abuse was not a huge topic in much of drama throughout much of radio, much less physical abuse of women. That's what you've got here. In this episode, End of the Road, an episode of Suspense, January 31st, 1960.
Make yourself comfortable, Mrs. Luciano. And you, Mr. Lennon.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
Haven't I seen you somewhere before? On many a magazine cover, Mr. Morgan. As Mary Gardner, Mrs. Luciano was one of our top models. Of course. And as counsel for the agency with whom she's registered, we need your help. Mm-hmm. I take it it's a matter of assault. A black eye. Who gave it to you?
My husband, Willie Luciano.
Willie Luciano. That's why we're here, Mr. Morgan. Unless I'm wrong, it was you who prosecuted Miss Gardner's husband on a charge of possession of a gun. And convicted him, yes. Now I remember. You're married to him, Miss Gardner?
He's my second husband. Mr. Gardner was killed in an auto accident. Mm-hmm. I had a little girl and I...
Mr. Morgan, the man has begun to beat her, threaten the little girl.
She's only 6, Mr. Morgan, but he hates her.
Please, Mary. Mr. Morgan, Miss Gardner is planning to sue for divorce. That is, she is, we are seeking divorce grounds. Just a minute. Where is your husband now?
He ran out of the house. It was 5 days ago he gave me this beating, and then he ran out of the house.
The man's living in a West Side hotel. We're investigating him for evidence of, you know the grounds for divorce in New York State. One moment. This is a civil matter. Why do you come to me? I'm a criminal prosecutor. The point is, my client would like protection against her husband. I can well understand that, but... Protection for herself and for her child. But what do you expect me to do, Mr. Linden? Well, we thought you might, as an assistant district attorney who has already sent him to prison, warn him to keep the peace and let the law take its course. The divorce law, that is. Depending on what your investigators come up with. That's right. Perhaps you might cause him to post a bond to keep the peace. Mm-hmm. Have you told him you're divorcing him, Miss Gardner?
No, I was afraid.
Mr. Morgan, believe me, the marks you see on Miss Gardner's face are nothing compared to others you do not see. Her body is covered with bruises. Well, I still don't see how I can intervene in a divorce proceeding in which my office is in no way involved. Mary.
Yes, sir.
Tell Mr. Morgan, if you would, what you told me this morning.
About the fight?
About the threat.
Well, I picked Elsie up after school, and he was waiting for us. He pushed her into the bedroom, and then he started right in on me again. I'll show you, he said. I'll show you where to get off. When I get through with you, you'll be a good model for one of those liniment ads, before and after.
He threatened you with continued bodily harm?
Yes.
And said he was walking out on you?
Yes.
But with an implied threat to return and do further harm. Mr. Morgan, don't you think it would be better to forestall a homicide than to have to go looking for a killer? Yes, I agree with you. Very well. Now, Mr. Linden, I never want to tell a lawyer how to run his case, but pending the results of your own investigations, there is something I can suggest. Yes? That pending evidence of adultery... Now, that's going to be difficult to obtain. This man likes to boast about women, we've discovered, but he has been very circumspect. Meets them only in public places.
Well, I can go before a magistrate with you and support an application for a warrant of arrest on the grounds of abandonment.
Abandonment?
Yes, Mrs. Luciano, abandonment is a crime, a misdemeanor. And if it continues for any length of time, technically, we might be able to prosecute. But,
But what?
But all he has to do is to give the money for support, and the criminal charge is purged for all practical purposes. That's what these wise guys do when they run out on their family. Send just enough money to pay the gas bill.
Well, then what's all this about?
Oh, he'll see me in court. It may have a quieting effect. Also, if you'd like to apply for a bond to keep the peace, I'll go along. I'll suggest high bail in view of his criminal background. And your husband will either fail or make bail.
Or be sobered by seeing that you have your eye on him.
Mr. Linden, Mr. Morgan.
Yes, my dear?
But what happens if he doesn't make bail?
He's committed to the civil prison.
For how long?
Until he makes bail.
Well, I'm no lawyer, but if he's in jail, then
How can your investigator obtain evidence against him for the divorce? Obviously, he can't. The main thing is you and your daughter are safe.
And if he gets out, on bail, I mean, he'll come after me.
Not if he knows the district attorney is interested in the case. Well, we hope. In the meantime, now, this is entirely up to you, Mr. Linden. Your client can sue for a legal separation. It's not much, but it's something.
Mr. Linden, honestly, what shall I do?
Mary, I'd do as Mr. Morgan says. The main thing is to protect you and Elsie. We can take each thing in its own time. Now, don't you agree?
Oh, I guess so.
Very well. Mr. Morgan, is there any necessity of Mary's remaining here?
No, not at all. But you'd better be at my office here tomorrow morning at about 10:15. Court opens then, and we'll go right in there and make application for a warrant of arrest.
10:15. All right. Thank you.
Just one question, Mr. Linden.
I know. Why did she marry him?
Mm-hmm.
Love, I suppose. Men like that have an animal attraction for girls like Miss Gardner. Beautiful faces, worshipped like goddesses by the multitudes. And nobody knows how long they wait by the phone for a date.
Mm-hmm. And a healthy young hoodlum like Luciano moves in.
Well, I'd better get back to the office. I'll have to prepare an affidavit for tomorrow.
Mr. Linden, would you mind a suggestion?
Please, I feel sort of helpless here.
A separation action can end in a judgment for stiff alimony. That's a pretty strong weapon when a man's trying to hide his means of livelihood. You might tell your client it can't be a blow hot, blow cold proposition.
I quite understand.
Point is, so must she. It's her main legal club over the man. Now, she's not obliged to let him back into the home, or there goes her case. As for having anything to do with him...
I know what you mean.
From now on, she'd be better off living in the YWCA. Otherwise, no case. But the main thing right now is to put up a legal wall between her and his fists. You were right. He might kill her.
I'll tell you something else we're going to do, Elsie. We're going to take a big, long vacation down in Florida, where the sun shines all the time, and we're going to get twin bathing suits, like the ones they took pictures of us wearing. And we'll go fishing and swimming, and we'll get so sunburned they won't have to use makeup on us when we go back to work. And we'll just laze around the sand all day. And we won't have to worry about what we eat. We'll just get fat.
Hiya, baby.
Willie.
Did you miss me? All right, kid, hit the road. Come here.
Shall we give her another 15 minutes?
You can stay here if you like. I have a case in special sessions.
Well, perhaps she went straight to felony.
No. I made it perfectly clear it was to be here. My office, 9:45. Morgan.
Mr. Morgan, this is Mary Gardner Luciano.
Oh. Yes, Mrs. Luciano. What? Shh. Mrs. Luciano, may I ask where you are? We said my office, 10:15.
I'm home, Mr. Morgan. I couldn't call before this. My husband just left.
He just left? But when did he arrive?
Last night. I mean, when I got home with Elsie, he was there.
How did he get in?
Oh, I don't know. I guess maybe he had a key. But I didn't ask. Mr. Morgan...
What did he want?
He wanted to talk things over.
Oh. Mrs. Luciano, tell me one thing. Was there a reconciliation?
Uh-huh. Shouldn't there have been?
Mrs. Luciano, that's a question you can't ask your district attorney or your lawyer. Only your own heart. Where is your husband now?
Shopping. For groceries. You see, we talked it all over, and we're going to give it another try. Oh, gee.
Oh, gee is right. Women.
What's the story?
Same old story. When a lovely woman stoops to folly and finds herself deserted and alone, she smooths her hair with automatic hand and welcomes the prodigal husband right back home. By Morgan, out of Goldsmith, or was it Pope?
I can't take as light a view of it as you do, Mr. Morgan.
What am I supposed to do? I don't know what went on last night in that happy little love nest, but if a girl wants to be a fool, it's her privilege.
But the man's dangerous.
The story is this, Mr. Linden. Has it ever occurred to you that some men have only one way of showing their women how much they love them, and that's by beating them up? And another thing, with all due respect to your sagacity, my colleague, how would you feel if Mary Gardner weren't a cover girl, weren't a raving beauty with honey eyes and deeper cheekbones, just an ordinary girl with an ordinary face? Would you think it was so terrible?
Oh, I'm thinking of the child. Now, what kind of a woman will she grow up to be, seeing her stepfather beat her mother up time and time again? I'm thinking of the child, and so should you be.
I am. But the mother's your client.
I intend to keep in touch with Mary.
I wondered why a corporation lawyer showed such an interest.
All right. So you guessed.
All right, Linden. I give them 6 months.
The question is, in this strange affair of a woman infatuated with an animal-like creature...
Yeah. What was the name of the fellow in that play, loved his wife and beat her? Lilliam.
Never mind Lilliam. The question is, at the end of 6 months, who is going to come out alive? The lady or the tiger?
Morgan.
Mr. Morgan, this is John Linden.
Yes, Mr. Linden. Well, it's been just about 6 months, hasn't it?
Yes, to the week.
What's happened, Linden?
I have a very frightened girl in my office, Morgan. Mary. I'd like to bring her over right now.
Certainly. What about the daughter?
Well, the child is all right. She was at school. My sister's picking her up. But Luciano's on the loose with a gun.
All right, Miss Gardner, you're safe here, and your daughter will be escorted by a patrol car. Now, please go on with your story.
Well, that's about all. Just that when I found the gun in his pocket and tried to stop him from going out on this job, he called it, he hit me. He hit me and hit like an animal, like a wild animal.
You say he threatened to come back, and what was his expression?
Take care of me. He said he'd take care of me for good. Mr. Morgan, he's insane.
Then why did you go back to him? Why did you take him back?
Oh, I couldn't...
Morgan, spare the girl.
No, it's all right now. I'm over it. It was just that I couldn't resist him when he just even touched me. But it's all over now. I'm cured.
You're sure?
Yes. I'll do anything you say. I'll sign warrants. I'll go right over to the court. Anything you say.
Will you come with me to First Avenue and 33rd Street for 10 minutes?
Oh, what's over there?
Your husband. He went on a robbery job. A liquor store. The dealer had a gun, too. Bellevue is at First Avenue and 33rd.
When he's hurt, I know he's hurt.
No. The morgue is at Bellevue. I'll ask you to identify him, and then you can wipe him out of your life.
But you don't understand. I hated him. I hated him for what he did to me. But I love him. Willie. Oh, Willie, what am I going to do with us?
You can grow up. You can come to your senses and thank your stars somebody killed him before he killed you. That's what you can do.
Mary,
Women.
Girl, please.
Brother Lyndon, take care of her. We'll skip the identification. I've got his prints on file. Women.
Suspense. You've been listening to End of the Road, a story by Eliezer Lipsky, written for radio by Alan Sloan. Heard in tonight's story were Bernard Grant as Willie Luciano, Rita Lloyd as Mary Luciano, and Nat Poland as Mr. Morgan. Others in our cast included John Seymour and Rita Sergel.
A stark depiction of abuse. January 31st, 1960, Suspense on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Visit my webpage, classicradio.stream. There you can stream our shows on demand. You can learn more about classic radio collecting. You can get all of our social media links there. And you can also contact me through our webpage, classicradio.stream. And just a reminder that our shows are available anywhere podcasts are served, including iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast. Just search anywhere podcasts are served for Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. That's a different name, Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We also hope you will thank this radio station and support their advertisers. The stations are kind enough to give us time here on your favorite station, and the advertisers pay the bills to keep this station on the air. Nice relationship. Support both of them, won't you please? I'm Wyatt Cox. Thank you for tuning in. Please thank this radio. I just said that. Thank the station, support the advertisers. That bears repeating. And tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station.